My name is Lydia. I am currently a professor of geography at the University of Kentucky, where my expertise is on the economic impacts of prisons. I've published 2 books on this topic and numerous peer-reviewed journal articles. So I want to start off by saying I really hear the concerns that folks here in Letcher have. I think they're really important. The economic crises, the concerns about a future, to letting kids stay here are important and critical. But as research has shown for now 30 to 40 years, when prisons are built in new areas, they unfortunately do not have the positive impacts that they are promised. I want to say just a couple of points on this point. So folks have done this research, and from the Central Valley of California to upstate to New York to the central kind of parishes of Louisiana to also Appalachia, as Dr. Judishept has shown. Unfortunately, there are promises of jobs, of job multiplier effects, of increased revenue. And what happens over and over and over again, what we see in towns where prisons are built are the exact opposite. The jobs are few and far between. People are more likely when they move here for the jobs, if they're already BOP employees or they work in a different prison system, they are more likely to stay in their communities than to move here. Revenue impacts are minimal at best. In fact, property values are often depressed. So what happens to residents is that the cost of their home, folks' retirements, go down in time. This is to say nothing of the various kinds of impacts on water infrastructure, sanitation, and because the revenue does not come with it, it leads to crumbling services that are worse off than when people had. I wish that the stories of what prisons do for towns were true. They don't. What they do is they deepen the economic inequalities that are happening here, while at the same time having all kinds of impacts on the folks who are targeted for incarceration, destabilizing communities, creating other kinds of economic inequalities in places like DC, where folks would be coming from, having all kinds of negative impacts. I also think it's worth noting that as economic geographer Ruth Wilson Gilmore has stated in her extensive research, is that when a prison comes to a town, one of the kind of environmental impacts that are often not considered, but research has shown to be the case, is that levels of domestic violence go up in a community. And when this happens, it has all kinds of impacts on services, particularly women and children, really further harming communities. So I just want to say very clearly that building this prison, I wish it could solve these crises. It won't. It will only deepen them even further, and I urge against it. Thank you.